Okay, let's continue. I can't interact with this. What do you call this symbol? Not hourglass. Okay, the pillar tugs at your essence. A pulse from the world itself moves through it. I've read this one before.
So, it's true. The gods are a sham that people have followed for thousands of years.
How do you say it's true? Because of what Iovara said? We haven't witnessed it ourselves. Let's continue first. Alright, Aloth? Can I count on you? To keep your mind intact? Wait, oh. New speech. I mean new conversations. Let's do this.
Aye?
Aye?
We've been lied to. Our whole lives, and many lives before that. And it's led us to put our faith in a pantheon of gods that never deserved it in the first place.
Allah's face is twisted with fury and despair. What would Aris say? Rational, benevolent, stoic, passionate or cruel? What fits Aris' personality more? He's sometimes rational, benevolent, stoic, but never cruel. So between rational, benevolent, and stoic. Okay, someone who is self-serving and only cares about his own benefit and safety. What would that person most likely be? Rational, benevolent, or stoic? Rational. He makes rational decisions that will lead to his benefit and safety and promote his interests. Stoic? Benevolent? Of course not. So it's between rational and stoic. What fits Aris Mittal the best? Rational or stoic? I think it's rational, right? Aris says, people need something to believe in. The gods, however they came to be, have served that purpose. Wait, my head is itchy. Need to scratch it first. Okay. Aris says people need something to believe in. The gods, however they came to be, have served that purpose.
Indeed. And I fear what would become of the world if people lost that mooring. Even widespread belief in the gods seems like it's barely enough to correct our aimlessness and contain our depravity.
Aloth scratches his chin, his eyes gazing at some far-off point in the darkened prison.
I've also been thinking, there won't be much left of Theos by the time you're done with him. if I know how you operate. That will leave the leaden key headless. Someone will need to fill that void. Someone who can clean up the mess that Theos has made of it.
Aloth looks back at you out of the corners of his eyes. One side of his mouth twitches in a grin. Why did Aloth say, "There won't be much left of Thaus by the time you're done with him, if I know how you operate"? What does Aloth think of Aris? A cruel man? Aris is not cruel. Wait. Will it benefit Aris if Aris becomes the new Grandmaster of the Leaden Key? Aris is self-serving, right? He wants what's best for him. So yeah, more power means more benefits for Aris. So I think Aris would choose number 2. Aris says, "Why yes, I would love to be the new Grandmaster of the Leaden Key."
Not that you haven't been a most capable leader during our journeys, but I expected I would take Theos' place. Whoever fills the role must be familiar with the infrastructure and operations of the Leaden Key.
Aloth's eyebrows rise into the darkness of his hood. But Aris doesn't like. Aris will not give this power to Aloth. If Aris cannot have it, then he will not give it to someone else. Because the Leaden Key is powerful, right? If Aloth is in control of it, there is a possibility in the future that Aloth's interest and Aris's interest is in conflict. Aris doesn't want to sow the seeds of his own obstacles. Hypothetically, Aris says, "No, let it die."
After all this, the world will fall to pieces without someone in charge.
Aloth waves his hand at the desolate prison around you. Aris says, "You didn't fall to pieces."
Then let's face Theos. When this is all over, I'll make sure that no one is able to commit his abuses again.
Aloth nods once. Now what about Eder?
Hey. Well, doesn't that just beat all? Here I was, wondering all this time whether all these terrible things were people's fault or the gods. Turns out they might be the same thing. Wonder how things would have gone different 15 years ago if the Raid Sarens had been told their god was made in some forge or kiln someplace. Would we still have gone to war?
Aris says, "No point in wondering about what we'll never know."
I could see the rebellion still happening, but I don't know that they would have invaded.
Eder looks down at the ground, drumming his fingers against his side restlessly. When he speaks again, it seems half to himself.
I don't know. When Woden left for war, we, had a fight. As brothers will.
Eder's gaze remains low, distant. Eder's throat catches. He takes a slow breath. Aris asks, "What about?"
About him going off to war. He was set on it. But my parents warned him. They said you get a new country with every trip across the border, but your God, you only get the one.
Eder looks up at you. What does it mean? They said you get a new country with every trip across the border, but your God, you only get the one. I don't understand what that meant.
Me? I didn't know who was right. All I knew was I didn't want him to go. It's the same for families as it is for gods. You only get the one.
Eder bites his lower lip.
I said every vicious thing I could think of, trying to change his mind. He brushed it off. Just got me madder, of course, him being so calm. He said I should come with him, but he'd understand if I didn't want to. I told him he'd better be able to face his God one day and answer for what he'd done. He said he'd keep that in mind. And then he was gone.
Okay, now I understand. When Woden left for the war, he hadn't met with Widewin, right? So he was going to war for Magran against Widewin, who is supposedly has Eothas inside him. So that's what their parents meant. You are going against your God, your faith. Ah, okay. I understand what that meant. I guess that's kinda true, right? I mean, the phrase... What was the phrase? God and country. There is a reason why God is first and country second. You worship God. You do not worship the state. Of course, it would be in the best interest of any state to erase the worship of God, and in place, they will put the worship of the state, for the people to worship the state instead of God. Any government's wet dream. I guess.
By the time I'd cooled off, months had passed. One morning it dawns on me that my brother always knew better than me. If he was so sure of what he was doing, then I should be there with him. I packed my things and was on the road that same morning. Of course, what I didn't know then was he'd already changed his mind. By that time, he was dead on that field.
Eder is quiet for a moment. Aris asks, "Do you think he went to Widewin because of what you said to him?"
Crossed my mind. You live in a place like Gilded Vale. You don't have a whole lot else to do other than think about things you don't want to think about. I hope that wasn't it. I hope he went there because it's what he thought was right. But it seems I'm not meant to know.
Aris says, "So if you had left with him, you would have known why he changed his mind."
If I'd have left with him, we'd both be dead, so I don't know why I bother thinking about it. He asked me to trust him the day he left. Said if I went with him, he'd make sure we were on the right path. And he deserved that. He deserved that trust from me.
Eder scrapes the tops of his fingernails back and forth softly across his jawline.
Raid Saris is a long way to walk on your own. I think I'd have liked to have been there with him on that journey. Even knowing how it ended.
Eder squints, his eyes searching. Aris says, "Let us be on our way."
Still one more mess we gotta straighten out. Come on then. I still owe you one.
Thank you, Eder, for your companionship.
I'm here.
Okay, time to rest, I guess. Go down we are. Oh. Well, I failed to persuade Iovara to come with me, but the least I could do for her is to disintegrate her soul. I don't want to leave her imprisoned there, but what about the other spirits? Can I destroy the Adra prison to free those imprisoned spirits? I hope so, if the game will give me a choice. Oh, it's dark in here. What the heck, man? Sun and shadow. It's dark, my man.
Of course.
I can't see much, but I hear a noise like a pig choking on wet feed. So, I guess Durance is breathing at least.
Come on, don't pick a fight with Durance at a time like this.
Carrying too much weight.
Where are we now? Sun and shadow. Are there traps here? Okay, these frozen statue-like, are they similar to the people who turned to ash when Thaus activated the device back at Sealant Lease? What is this? Oh, the souls we collected. Ah. All right. And with an architecture. Look at those roofs. That dome, those domes.
Full of surprises, aren't you?
Look at the size of this place.
Look at that. A city to put all others to shame. And long lost. Path now, Watcher.
Can you do that again? I had something in my eye. I missed most of it.
Sun in shadow. So, if this statue is the remnant of Kith who died from Beowulf, then these people had their soul ripped out, right? Like what happened with the priests back at Sealant Lease when we first encountered Thaus. So what caused these people's soul to get ripped out?
Carrying too much weight.
What is this enemy? Angwithan shade. Huh, interesting. Topaz. Whose corpse is this? Look at this. They wear armors. Soldiers, perhaps? What is this? Oops. Shadow Drake. Oh, Drake skeletons. I see.
What's this?
I see. Guardian's Dome. So I'm guessing the Angwithan managed to domesticate drakes. Look at the skeletons. They have collars on their neck. So they have domesticated drakes. Wow, that's awesome. Chalky bits of bone break away between your fingers. I see. The floor of this place is like a hexagon. Is it a hexagonal floor tiles? The shadows in the cavern suddenly lengthen and swallow you. When your eyes adjust to the darkness, you find yourself in the midst of what must be another vision. You are surrounded by mists. The ground feels springy under your feet. You imagine that as soon as you take a step, the soil behind you will erase all trace of your passage. As if on cue, the mists before you clear just enough for you to take a couple steps forward. You do, and the fog closes behind you. You continue for several minutes in this manner, one step at a time, never seeing more than the ground right in front of you. Eventually, rays of light cut through the haze, and you find yourself facing a canyon wall. Durance's head twitches, as though a mosquito had flown into his ear. He swings haphazardly at the air with his staff. Something whizzes past you. Just as you turn, you catch another whir of movement. Out of the mist flits a shape, small and round. You think you see another and another. They tickle the corners of your vision. You turn back to the canyon wall. The sun shifts along its path, and what looked like a smooth rock faces the hollow of a cave. A figure steps out. It features shifting and changing before your eyes. Kana says, "He who sees is not seen, save when he chooses, it seems." Kana regards the figure with wary fascination. I thought the god of mysteries my chief enemy at times, but one cannot seek out answers if the questions aren't there. Oh, it's Weil! The figure transforms from male to female, from Orlan to Aumaua, its bones lengthening and its fur receding into its flesh. The only detail that remains constant is the smooth, eyeless face. The whizzing, rushing shapes from the mist converge on the figure, and as they form a spinning cloud, you realize that they are eyes. Wow.
You understand the value of a mystery watcher, a buried scroll, a hidden truth. These are my ways.
Is he talking about that one time Aris hid the book, or was it a scroll under a drake skeleton after acquiring it from the bandits who robbed the halls of mysteries in Defiance Bay?
You unravel a thread, Watcher, one you have lost and discovered over generations, and following it to its end has only brought you back to the beginning.
The eyes track you even as they circle the god. Aris asks, "What are you talking about?" Weil giggles, a strangely modulated sound that rises and falls as the god shifts from one form to the next. You seek and search while your foe obscures, and even your quest for answers to your past has only led you to another mystery, and one grander still. Aris says, "These mysteries doesn't matter to me. I just want to keep my own soul from unraveling." Yeah, sounds like what Aris would say. Only for his own benefit. Weil says, "Yet as you've sought this goal, your foes have pursued another."
A nebula of souls, blind and brimming with potential. The answer to Woodika's question and the beginning of yours. What would you do with them?
Changing from elf to folk, Weil raises its darkening hands to the swarm of eyes. Thunder clouds form overhead, casting shadows of movement across the canyon. Aris says, I take it you've got something in mind." The cloud breaks, and a torrent of rain washes Weil's features clean. His blank face molds itself again, taking on the shape of something you've never seen before. Weil says, "Do not consign the souls to the fate of some god's choosing. You have found them. Now scatter them across existence. Their destination known to neither god nor mortal. Let them be lost again. New answers to new riddles." Behind Weil, the sudden downpour has carved new caves into the canyon. Aris says. Aris asks, "What end would that serve?"
No end, Watcher. That is the purpose.
Aris asks, "But what would happen to the souls?"
None know. They could end up anywhere in the realms of gods or mortals, whole or divided. Discovering them again and charting their course through the ether will be a new mystery.
Aris says, "You say I shouldn't let a god decide their fate, but it seems you're asking me to do just that."
In a way. But something must be done, and hurling them from the machinery of other schemes is the truest course of action.
Aris says, "Farewell, Weil."
That is a word for endings, and this is but a crossroads. Even I do not know what you would choose.
The shifting face laughs. Shadows from the new caves melt and spread across the landscape, covering you in darkness. When the light returns, the vision is gone. Interesting. So instead of communioning with me back at Terevron, Wild chooses to show himself here, in this place. Why? Court. What is this? Lone segment of the bridge rises over the ruins of an ancient city. It looks stable enough, but the wide gap leaves little room for error. Jump to the freestanding segment. Sagani gets a running start and leaps over the gap. However, Sagani cries out upon landing and collapses on the other side in a tangle of limbs. Please, no injury, please. Of course, injury. Twisted ankle. Minus 25 reflex. Dang it.
I'd gladly shoulder the load, but the pack won't hold anymore.
Of course, injury. Injury. Another injury, another injury.
Following your lead.
The edge of the bridge is dark against the glowing city below. A draft rises from the depths, cool against your skin. Jump to the other side. Sagani misjudges the distance and falls short. Sagani manages to grab the jutting lip of the bridge, legs dangling over empty space. With a painful gasp, Sagani climbs to safety. Another injury, 2 injuries. Minus 25 reflex, minus 15 deflection. Dang it.
Right away.
Maybe I should use the camp. Should I? Yeah, why not? If I'm running out of fire camp supplies, I'll just go back to the floor upstairs and pick them up.
Do you think a single man might change the course of destiny?
What? Aris asks. You don't go for the easy questions, do you? Kana says you know me, always digging where I shouldn't. Kana sighs. There are people, yourself included, who seem to change the world around them just by passing through it. And then there are those who maneuver and scheme, pulling strings from the shadows, and by that method topple dukes. Aris says, wait, you're not planning on assassinating anybody, are you? Kana says, of course not. I only meant to say, I wonder if perhaps I've been going about this wrong. I wanted to bring back an artifact and have it solve all of Rawatai's problems for me. After all we've seen and done, I know I'll have to convince them myself, even if I have to talk their dang ears off. Oh, okay. What's with this door? Wait, what? Oh, changes map? Not yet. Constitution affects the endurance and health of the character. Sun and Shadow. Machine. Not yet. I don't want to go here yet. Is this where we have to go? Is that where we have to go? I think so. Let me explore the previous area first. Okay. Skeletona. More ash. Ash corpses. Oh, I can go down? But there's a stair over here. Why can't I go down when there's a stair over here? What the heck? Why? So back to that other room, I guess? I wonder if any of the Glanfathans have visited this place before. The people of Glanfath. I guess not, because to them it's taboo to enter the Engwithan ruins. Oh no. It's not taboo. I remember in one of the missions. No, not missions. In one of the adventures. I forgot which adventures it was. Wait. Did I? Okay, I don't remember. Never mind. I lost my thoughts. Was it a conversation with Lady Webb? Or was it a conversation with Kuren? Or was it something I've read somewhere? That the ciphers are a product of when Deerwood sent people to Erglanfath to learn from their I don't know what they call it, magicians, wizards, shamans. So Deerwood sent people to Erglanfath to learn from their shamans. These people were given permission by the Glanfathans to enter the Engwithan ruins to learn from the shaman's ceremony or ritual. And that is the beginning of how ciphers came to be in Deerwood. So from that story, the Glanfathans have no issue with entering the ruins. But they do have issue when people enter the ruins to loot it, like the Dirwoodens did, right? Or am I wrong?
Carrying too much weight.
Are you ready to take the oath? To spread the word of the gods to the lost and heathen?
Taos's voice. I can't speak to him, alright?
Carrying too much weight.
The name exists, but I can't click on it, alright?
Carrying too much weight.
Wait, is this where I have to go? But what about the previous area, though? There's lights on the lower levels, but I can't access the stairs. Did I miss something? Let's go back outside. I'm in this. Oh, I can't click on it. Okay. I can't click on it. What about this one? Yeah, I can't click on it as well. What about this one? Yep, I can't click on it. So the only way to go is that room. Fine. Walk of Souls, Guardian Stone. What about this one? Yeah, I can't click on this as well. These two. Oh well. Sun in shadow. So, in the time of the Angwith, was Angwith the only civilization that existed? Or are there other civilizations beside Angwith? I assume there are other civilizations besides Angwith, because Thaus did mention Oniosus and Kratum, right? Oniosus, Kratum, Angwith, and I'm guessing at that time Angwith is the most developed. I don't know.
I am trusting you to remain loyal to the gods in this.
If you do not, you will have greater powers than me to answer to. But you will answer to me as well.
If you do not, you will have greater powers than me to answer to. Who? The deities, right? Or something else?
I'd gladly shoulder the load, but the pack won't hold it.
I wouldn't ask this were there any other choice.
I can't click on him. What's with this place?
This is a missionary, same as I was, taught the wrong things as I was.
I remember that vision. The soldier was suspicious of Aris, but Iovara was trusting.
Osionis. They have held off many would-be invaders.
Yeah, the plan is to lure Iovara to Oceanus.
You are ready to give a confession?
I am ready to hear one from you.
Should I save this? I guess so. Memories of the Ancients? What is this statue? The statue is warm to the touch. Wait, I want to examine the other statue. Oh, the large Adra machine. Like the one in the vision, the first vision, after the first Beowik. Tugs, you've come to a circular room, grand and domed, its walls lined with Adra and trimmed with copper. At the far end of a great pillar of Adra pierces the floor from below. Okay, let me repeat. At the far end, a great pillar of Adra pierces the floor from below, like a ragged spike, its shimmering texture giving the illusion of boundless depths. Your thoughts are yours and not yours, and they are all questions. Ah, we're going back to square one. Questions that need to be asked, but you don't know what. I remember that vision. At the base of the pillar stands Tugs, a look of concern on his face. As he notes your approach, you have something you want to ask him, one question above all others, spinning madly in your mind, but you don't dare ask it yet. You need some admission from him first, some hint of the veracity of your suspicions.
You are far from your post, Inquisitor. What brings you here?
Your mind races, weighing different angles of approach, your emotions barely in check. Aris asks, what is this place?
We are in a sanctum holy to Utica. There are others like it in service to the other gods. I come here often to pray for her counsel, and in this space I may be assured that she hears me.
Okay, so this is a sanctum dedicated to Utica, and there are other sanctums dedicated to the other deities. Aris asks, was Iovara telling the truth?
That woman sought only to destroy the foundations of peace and civility that my people sacrificed everything to build.
My people, you mean Engwith? Aris asks, that machine behind you, what does it do?
It has many uses, but its purpose is to bring structure to the chaos that surrounds it.
Aris asks, all these statues, who are they of?
They are monuments to Udica's greatest servants among my people. I hope to join them myself one day, but my work is not yet complete.
Aris asks, was the entire Inquisition based on a lie?
The Inquisition was based on the need to cut the flesh from a rotting wound.
You are shaking now, having lost all patience for tact. No more evasions. You have to know everything you believed, everything you have done for the gods. Aris asks, did you lie to me when you said the gods could end suffering? Tugs says nothing. Aris asks, are there no gods?
What is a god? A higher power? A rewarder of good deeds and punisher of the wicked? Something men can turn to in their darkest moments when their days seem only like bridges from one tragedy to the next. Our gods are all these things.
Thaus's face remains a mask of impassivity. With Thaus's every word, you find yourself losing control of a boiling cauldron of rage and doubt and fear and hopelessness until you can take it no more. Aris asks, "Are there no gods?"
We are in a sacred place within earshot of the gods themselves. This is not the time. You've been through much these past few months.
With maddening calm, Thaus puts an index finger to his lips.
You will return home and you will rest. When you feel you have recovered, you may rejoin us at the trials. The Inquisition is far from over, and I will have need of you. There are many who continue to spread the lies of the apostate. The Inquisition will not end until we have pronounced judgment on all of them.
Thaus's eyes linger on you, and there is no mistaking the threat behind it. And your rage shrinks at the image of an iron will in your mind, monolithic and caked with the dried blood of thousands. You do not ask your question again. I still want to know how the Angwithans created these deities. How did they do it? Oh, Thaus himself in the flesh.
How did you find it?
Aris says, "I didn't. It was Lady Webb."
Another in a string of acts of petty defiance. For all her knowledge, she always preferred spite over reason.
Aris says, "She loved you."
Then she should have obeyed. I ask one thing of all my followers. She was incapable. A waste of rare talent and intellect.
Aris says, "Blind obedience is a lot to ask of someone with a mind of their own."
What of your cohorts, then? They have followed you to their deaths. Is it loyalty that brings them here? Or is it, as my agents suggest, that they have no direction of their own?
Who are your agents? Aloth was one of your agents. He said it to me before we met, and then he changed his mind.
You worshipped Aethys, did you not?
Thaus regards Eder.
Your spies are good. What gave me away? The cape?
Yet when your god needed you the most, you chose your country.
Eder frowns, irritated.
We were being invaded. Not by anyone who was acting like a god.
Then I should think your hometown gave you a hero's welcome when you returned.
Thaus gives a thin, patronizing smile.
Well, they made cake. And I think you can expect folks to get jumpy when the gods aren't there to reassure them. Maybe if they weren't all too busy trying to kill each other.
Eder smiles at this. Yeah, I remember the cake story from Eder. After he went back from war. Gilded Veil made a very delicious cake for Eder and the others who returned from the Saints' War.
The gods argue over how best to prevent Kith society from destroying itself. These disruptions would not be necessary were mortal instinct not so diseased. You have devoted yourself to studying the work of my people. Why?
Thaus turns his attention to the big Aumaua.
I thought your people had much to teach us. That we too could create great machines, improve our ships, make an empire as vast and impressive as yours ever was, built upon your secrets.
Kana's gaze is steady as he studies Thaus in turn.
And did you ever consider that these were things you were never meant to understand? That their comprehension is beyond you?
Kana says, "I know better. The Angwithans weren't an infallible race. You were never gods. all your petty experiments, your heinous crimes, your glorious achievements, you were just people, and your time came and went. Angwith is a lesson now, for those who remain. Okay, Kana mentioned heinous crimes and petty experiments. It must be referring to what we saw in the endless paths of Otnua, on the same floor where we found Gabranos, or what's left of him, or that husk. I wonder, if we did not go there, how would Kana's dialogue be different?
You are living in the time of my people, Amawa. You owe them more than you will ever comprehend.
Why is the sound suddenly gets quiet? Thao says, "You are living in the time of my people, Aumaua. You owe them more than you will ever comprehend, and so it shall ever be."
Greater civilizations than yours have attempted to reclaim what we buried. The greater their successes, the worse their fates in the end. I have seen to it.
Yes, so the Angwithans wants to bury their civilizations and their trace because they don't want anyone to find out that the deities are created by them, right? Duran stares at Thaus with a beast's snarl. Thaus watches him calmly.
You built a weapon that delivered exactly as promised.
My goddess, as you did yours.
I serve my goddess as you did yours.
Yet the other builders were slain, 11 of a dozen. Why not you? Were you somehow different? Redeemable in your god's sight?
For I had to be redeemed in her eyes was weakness, purged by the Watcher's sight.
Whatever desire I had to be redeemed in her eyes was weakness purged by the Watcher's sight.
Or was it merely that your goddess wanted you dead as well, and your delusions of importance prevented you from seeing the obvious?
Killing charms, nothing more. But the spell's broke now, Theos. The trial's over. I know friend from foe, and I've come here now to see a foe repaid.
A horse beguiling charms.
You were able to destroy a god because another god wished it. Without her hand to guide you, you could not strike at a god any more than you could strike the sky. You are impotent, and not just from the pox. State your name and purpose, young acolyte.
At the sight of Aloth, Thaus's mouth twitches derisively.
My name belonged to the gods and my hand to their service. No more.
Aloth's eyes darken.
You serve none but yourself. Without contact with your order, you can have no higher purpose. Only the base concerns of the flesh. You have cast yourself from our ranks.
And I should have done it years before. I'd rather live in uncertainty than servitude.
We all serve someone else, to a certain extent. Except for those people who are really at the top.
And that uncertainty would lead you where it leads everyone. To doubt, to emptiness, to the many cruelties inspired by disbelief. You will have to forgive your Grandmaster for remaining skeptical of his initiate's choices. You are far from home, dwarf.
Thaus looks down at Sagani. Because she's short?
I knew my hunt would send me a long way from Masuk. It was a challenge I was glad to undertake for my village.
Sagani raises her chin.
A journey, then? It must be of some import to take you so far and to last so long.
It's important to Masuk, and so it's important to me.
Sagani flinches.
You are here because you are lost. The gods cannot reach everyone, I'm afraid. May you fare better in your next lives.
Thaus looks over your company, each one in turn. He directs his gaze at you.
I gather you have had your soul awakened. Why else would you shadow my footsteps like some stray mongrel? You think I have something to offer you, but our business was concluded long ago.
Aris says, I live my life by the lies you told. You owe me the truth.
I answered your questions once. That your soul is not fit to accept the answers is of little concern to me. I lied to no one. Not to you, not to anyone. The gods are real. They are everything we need them to be, and the world is better for it.
Aris asks, you're saying this somehow improves things?
The heart of this country has skipped a beat, nothing more. I have done far worse. I plunged the peaceful kingdom of Tolosus into civil war. I slew the monarch of Desontio, whose people never knew hardship under his rule, and replaced him with a cruel despot who brought them to ruin.
Why? For what purpose? Tolosus Desontio.
When plague arrived at the great city of Arborensis, I saw to it that the cure did not. They piled their dead outside the city in heaps that rose above their walls.
Aris asks, this is supposed to diminish the damage you've done here?
It is to show the proper perspective. There was a time, back when your soul was still a shapeless mist, when the world believed only in false gods. Thousands of them. Gods that told them to take slaves. Gods that told them to make war upon their neighbors and devour the slain. Gods that told them to burn their children alive and cover themselves in the ashes as a sign of their faith. But all that changed when they learned of the true gods. Our gods. All those misshapen, bestial instincts melted beneath the radiance of our God's majesty. You could see it in their eyes. That dull emptiness replaced with the glimmer of a kindled spark.
So that's how you pronounce it. Bestial, not bestial. Okay. What would Aris say? Aris is not the kind of guy who likes to engage in this kind of conversations. Aris says, you led them to overcome their nature.
No person can overcome his instincts by himself. Only with the aid of a god, someone he will respect and listen to, even against his every impulse, does he stand a chance. Have you imagined this existence? The one the apostate would have created. We are not all so virtuous as she. Without our gods, the most wicked, the most tyrannical, they would take that power for themselves. But more than that, it would be a hollow existence. All mysteries forever unanswered. All purposes constructed from meaninglessness. No endings to bring closure. Only a wheel, turning without mercy, grinding our spirits to dust.
Thaus no longer looks at you as he speaks. The reflection of the ancient machine flickers and dances in his eyes. I still want to know though, why do you start a civil war in Tolosus? And why do you replace the ruler of Desontio with a cruel despot? And why do you prevent a cure from arriving to a particular nation? For what purpose? I just want to know. I mean, you've talked this much. At least you can explain why you did all those things. Why? I don't know. What would Aris say? You underestimate people. If that's how it has to be, then so be it. Your way comes at too great a cost. Better than that, better than live a lie. You're right, there's no way to live. I think Aris would be apathetic towards this. He would choose number 2, I guess. Aris says, if that's how it has to be, then so be it. Is that apathy? No, apathy would be just, who cares, right? Yeah, I guess the closest to Aris not caring is number 2. Aris says, if that's how it has to be, then so be it.
If you would welcome a wretched and lifeless existence, then by all means. But I will not see the rest of the world saddled with such a curse.
Well, yeah. All I have seen, the millennia of experience. I will not be dissuaded from this course. This is the only way. Aris says, at least admit it. Admit to me that the gods are not true gods. I need to hear it from you.
You have not thought this through. There is no leaving this place for you. I allowed it once, but you have made it all too clear what a mistake my mercy was.
If you are going to kill Aris, why not just tell him the truth then? It costs nothing, right, if in the end you're going to kill Aris?
With your soul and thousands of others, I will see this world purged of its suffering.
And how are you planning to do that? How is Woidika going to do that?
Hear me, Woodika. Your servant calls for aid.
Thaus puts his hands out low to either side, as though welcoming some unseen guest. He shuts his eyes and casts his face skyward. What is this?
Roak 10!
Oh no! No! No, what is that? Oh no! No, Woidika, no! Woidika, no! Oh, Duran's almost got KO'd. Oh, Duran's KO'd. Wait, what? Game pause? No, everyone's dying. No, only Ederikana Aloth is about to KO. Wait, why is Iris using the hammer? Use this double weapon, you fool.
Arthek.
Fight, fight.
Moed Ixi Anna. Tal. Forgive me, Mordecai.
Okay. Oh. Thaus. At your feet rests the body of Thaus, hollow. The dense wrinkles shaped by the silent shouldering of an eternal burden now smoothed across his color-drained face. His soul remains still for the moment, defenseless, its energy expended in defeat. It lies sprawled across his body like a death shroud.
All those lifetimes spent to preserve a single vital secret. I would expect a man to reconsider his choices after the first 500 years.
Kana looks down at the body, his brows furrowed with thought.
Down and the mistress still to go. A good start, worthy of being built upon.
That's the servant down.
After journeying for lifetimes, I can't imagine his failure, knowing it was all for nothing.
Sagani absently scratches Itumak's head.
He was good at serving his god, I give him that. But he should have picked a better one. He spent his lives, more than any of us will ever know. For what? Binding the world to a lie. Could a man like that ever be redeemed?
Aloth shakes his head, looking down at Thaus in pity and wonder. He looks up at you, explore Thaus' soul. With a deep breath, you plunge into Thaus' soul, and where in Breckenbury it had been a maze of narrow corridors and dead ends, now it is expansive and borderless, its walls crumbling into heaps like the ruins of Engwith as you pass through them. You travel for what seems like ages, rushing to a known destination, a memory you glimpsed once before. At last you see it, no more than a pinprick of light at the end of a long tunnel, expanding slowly at first, then quickly as you near. You come out in the room you are standing in now, but it is new and pristine and filled with people. Thousands of them, all turned towards the great Adra pillar and the machine that encases it. Thaus stands at the machine, and you are one with him now. You look out at the crowd, at faces of shriveled old men and cherub-cheeked little girls, at mothers bouncing infants to quiet them, and fathers clasping their children's restless hands, and watching you with somber acceptance. A woman with tears in her eyes gives you a small nod. You turn back toward the machine, your breast constricted beneath the weight of unwanted knowledge, preparing yourself to set out alone on a journey without end. You close your eyes and open them again to find the machine still in front of you, beckoning. You take your place in front of it and place your hands upon a large mechanical disc at the base of the great crystal column and speak a single word. Giant rings creak to life, building speed, setting arrays of carved draconic mouths aglow, and sending tremors through the platform beneath you. The entire room shakes now with the force of the accelerating machine, all sound drowned out by its deep deafening thrum. Brilliant tendrils of light arc outward from the pillar in all directions, and you look over your shoulder to see them engulfing the crowd, burning them brightly like hot iron. One by one the tendrils disappear, leaving ashen effigies where people once stood, many of them disintegrating into grey heaps, under the stress of the tremors. So this is the story of how all those ash corpses came to be in Sun in Shadow, right? You look above to the Adra pillar, and a glowing spherical mass has begun to coalesce atop the column where the arcs converge. It grows and pulses, translucent and bulbous like some immense chrysalis, suspended in slow rotation as though it were being spun from the arcs of light. When the last arc disappears, the spectral mass hangs a moment, no longer rotating so bright you must shield your eyes with an outstretched hand, and it seems to you as though it is looking at you. You bow your head in acknowledgement and look back up to see it melt into the pillar like warm candle wax. The pillar flares with a flash of light bright as the sun itself, then fades to darkness. The machine slows down to an abrupt halt, and when the last echo of its grinding cogs has passed, the chamber is still and you are alone. From all sides, reality begins to bleed in through the memory, and you find yourself in your own skin once more, looking down on Thugs' lifeless body. You sense a listlessness to Thugs' soul, an overwhelming fatigue that hinders its immediate escape and makes it vulnerable to manipulation. You feel as though your victory has given you some kind of hold over it, and you are able to do with it as you please. What would Aris do? Aris says, your memory makes you a slave to your own past. Perhaps it can't be undone, but it can be forgotten. It shall trouble neither of us any longer. Duran's
He will have no reminders. He will not remember the message we wrote on his fragmented bones and carved into his flesh. The lesson we burned into his soul.
Duran scowls. No.
You are kinder to that man than I would have been.
You return to the landscape of Thugs' memory, to the vast terrain of deceptions and crippling despair. And you can feel your agency in this world now, an ability to reshape to the whims of your dominant will. You focus on a vision of pure emptiness, and your will becomes a swirling vortex around you, sweeping through the landscape and bearing away moments and lifetimes like some apocalyptic biowick that would tear away the essence of the planet itself. The storm builds until the very crust of the world peels from the fabric of the soul that anchored it, and it is borne off into the sky until it is too distant to observe. The last thing you see is white void, boundless in all directions, unfettered by the shackles of experience and doubt. In the stillness that follows, a single word echoes through your mind. A word you spoke when you were one with Thugs, in an ancient memory. You realize it is the word that activates the machine. Okay.
Yes?
Oh, everyone has something to say now. Okay. Hmm.
Yes?
Astounding. I always knew the leaden key stood for something big, but I didn't quite realize what I'd gotten myself into. And now, you're in the middle of something even bigger. With a decision that will affect millions.
Aloth looks at the massive Adra pillar. So how did the deities were created? Was the previous vision is how the deities were created? And what about the Adra? The caravan captain, or was it Kalisha who said it, that Adra is the veins of the world, or something like that? We are at this point and still no explanation about the Adra, about the deities, and whatever real deities may have been in the past. Questions.
But even if you send the souls somewhere specific now, who knows what the next turn of the wheel will make of them? We can't really control what happens to them. Nor should we try. I had to see the monster Theos had become to realize that.
Aloth looks back at the pillar. Aris says, maybe so.
It's your decision, of course. And whatever you decide, I'm glad our paths crossed in Gilded Vale.
Okay.
Hey, Theos, he had hold of your soul from a long time back, seems like. You get what you needed from him?
Aris says, I got an answer to an old question. It's not even Aris's question to begin with. It was his past incarnation's question.
Those can be hard to come by. I feel for people still looking for theirs. Easy to see what it means to them to have someone to look to for answers.
Eder grins.
You'll be feeling better soon then. Good. That's real good. You got it figured out what you're going to do about all that?
Eder looks up at the machine. Aris says not yet.
Got a lot of people out there thinking they've been abandoned by their gods. There's not much that'll put the fear in you more than that. You can take my word for it. If it was in my power, and I know it's not, but if it was, I'd send every last one of those souls right back where they were supposed to go in the first place. So folks could get back to believing what they used to. And after what you've been through, though, I'm sure you got your own ideas. Better make it good.
Eder winks. Okay, don't scold me about my decision over Thaus, please.
The road greets us at last. You fared well, Watcher. Better than any Watcher has right to. Seems you were afield in need of a flame's cleansing.
Duran's eyes narrow. The end of the road.
Trial had produced such an outcome. I had figured myself for the field all this time. But you were the field, and I the darkness. A lesson neither of Durance nor of Margarin. But with that trial's end, a new one begins. A god's trial. And I will stand in judgment without mercy.
I still do not know what is the deal that has been made between Magran and Wodica, and what does it have to do with Eothas invading Dirwood and the Godhammer bomb. Even at this point, I still don't have my answers. Dang it.
Following your lead. We've come to the end of it, my friend. It has been an honor to walk this road with you, and I will regret our parting.
Kana says, you have saved yourself against all odds. I was never so stout-hearted. I fear something has faded in me, or else I simply have need of rest after this long year, but I will remember your example. Kana studies you for a moment, then smiles. Victory agrees with you, Arismital. You look as if a great weight has lifted from your shoulders. I am glad for it.
Ready, Watcher. Never thought I'd see something like this in my travels. Lends a little perspective, doesn't it?
Sagani shakes her head, marveling at the great chamber all around you.
It's a bitter thing to have come so far only to find that it was all for nothing. Somehow, I don't think we're any better off knowing what we do.
Sagani gazes ruefully at the Adra pillar. Aris asks, what now?
I guess that's up to you, isn't it? Because I'm too short to reach the controls on that thing. For all I know, when you flip the switch, that thing will blast us all as far as Nasitak. Whatever happens, though, I'm glad we journeyed together.
Sagani nods at the machine. She's too short. Wait, if Sagani, a dwarf, is too short to reach the controls, what about Aris? He's an Orlan. Orlan is shorter than a dwarf. This doesn't make sense. Aris says, I told you I'd get you home.
So you did. It's been an honor.
Sagani laughs. You.
Yes?
We're at the end of our journey. A little bit sad. Machine. But this is only dedicated to Wodika, right? So there are other machines like this dedicated to the other deities.
Indeed.
Wait, can I interact with Thaus? Oh, I can't. Alright. As you approach the machine, the path underfoot suddenly changes to a cobbled road. If you hadn't experienced visions like this already in Terevron, you'd be tempted to believe that the machine had sucked you into it and deposited you in the middle of nowhere. The sun blazes overhead, and the rolling meadows and thick forests on either side of the road could be anywhere in the Dirwood. A shrill cackle turns your head. Skyen. Standing next to you is a malnourished man clad in a threadbare loincloth and manacles. His entire body is striped with lash marks, and there are scarred pits where his nose and ears should be. Oh, he got mutilated. Yeah, I remember this description. He stinks of stale sweat and unwashed filth. You notice someone wandering down the road, but the figure's back is to you. The scarred slave has your attention for now.
You once grew fat while others spent the currency of their lives in your service. I would gladly rend your back with a lash, taking interest for every drop of blood you spilt, every scrap of flesh you scarred. But my mistress would appeal to your sense of perspective, for you know that all things have their place.
Skyen's black eyes glitter. Skyen gives you a halting, exaggerated bow, glaring up at you even while his knees wobble and buckle. Wait, Skyen says, my mistress. So what? Does Skyen serve Wodika? What the heck? Wait, so Magran, according to Aris's conclusions, conspired with Wodika. For what purpose, I don't know. The game never gave me that answer. And now the game is telling me that Skyen is serving Wodika? What the heck? What is going on here? Okay, one more thing. It's because of Aris's background as an aristocrat that Skyen wants to lash Aris's back. He claims that Aris is spilling blood and scarring flesh for his aristocratic lifestyle. Did that really happen? Or Skyn just assume that Aris is a cruel aristocrat? I think it's the latter. He just assumes.
You have labored at the pleasure of others. That shriveled hag in Hadrit House, those preening soldiers with more taste for silk than steel, the wretched tribesmen playing out their fantasies of grandeur. And then you cowered and knelt before the gods themselves, begging one paltry favor and receiving riddles and visions in response.
You don't approve of that? I thought you deities like it when you are being worshipped.
And now the gods give you orders and commands, even while you set out to fix what they cannot. Yet what have they offered you?
Skyn sidles closer, a sly grin on his wrecked face. His stench is overwhelming. You are speaking about the gods as if you are not one of them. What is this about? A suspicious grimace crosses Alo's face. I get the feeling this is his way of giving you new orders, on behalf of his own master. Be careful, Arismital. Who is Skyn's master? He said my mistress. The constellation puts Skyn, Ondra, and Rimmergan together. So, is his mistress Ondra? Or is it Voidica? Given the breadth of the Iron Manacle, it's amazing that Skyn can raise his bone-thin arm, but he does, and he points to the person walking the other way along the road.
The exiled queen is not an ungrateful patron.
Okay, so his mistress is Voidica. What is going on here? What is Skyn planning? Back in Ter Evron, he speaks as if he is with the other deities, being against Voidica. Now he shows himself to be a servant of Voidica? What the heck? You get a better look at the lone figure and realize that she's wearing robes, tattered and singed, but fine nonetheless. On her head is the silhouette of a broken crown. She continues walking, her pace slow but determined.
Finish the work Theos began. Strengthen Woodica with these souls and allow her to become the most powerful of all the gods, with you as her favorite.
Skyn's voice becomes a hungry whisper. And why would you want Aris to do that? Oh, I see. Choice number 3 shows that Aris concluded that helping Voidica would mean that the secrets of the gods stay hidden. So that's Skyn's angle. He wants the secrets to stay buried. But let's play coy, okay? After all, Skyn is a deity. If Aris challenges him head on, who knows what Skyn might do, right? Ondra can summon the moon, Ioni brother. I'm sure Skyn is also capable of an equivalently magnificent feat, right? So better not cross the deity like this. Play your game right, Aris. Aris asks, what do you mean by her favored? Skyn says, the recipient of Voidica's blessings. She has always had a place for mortals of particular merit. If you help her now, she will become the most powerful of all the gods, and you will be the one who made her so. Think of the lifetimes of reward you would reap. Duran says, the only reward I wish is the joy of pulling bloody shards of her broken crown from my staff when I have finished with her trial. Skyn turns his flinty eyes on Durance. So says your companion, who's been abandoned by his own god. Do you really trust him to make alliances for you? Aris says, I've been working against Woedica this whole time. Why would she thank me now, after I've defeated her most loyal servant? Besides, Woedica wants to destroy Animancy, and Watcher's abilities are even more potent than Animancy. Right? The ragged hole in Skyn's face wrinkles with disgust. Loyal and weak, Thaus proved his inadequacy when he failed to anticipate you. A plan exposed is worse than none at all. But you have proven resourceful, equal to the schemes of gods. Woedica has a long memory, Watcher, for both friends and foes, and she keeps her oaths. Aris says, helping Woedica would mean that the secrets of the gods stay hidden. Skyn rubs his hands together, his black eyes gleaming. Safely hidden, yes, from the violent overlords who would cease to fear punishment in the next life, from the heavy-handed masters who would answer to no one. The world needs some schemes. Or are the souls of Kith so pure that you would snap the tenuous threads that bind society? Aloth snarls, and Thaus makes a better overlord? This one is the god of slaves. What would he have left if the world were unchained from his mistress's lies? Aloth has a point. Skyn takes a bundle at his feet and hefts the burden onto his back. I've explained the alternative, Watcher. Continue as a pawn of the gods or a partner of one. At the other end of the road, the figure stops. She turns her head just enough to look over her shoulder. Her face is mostly hidden, but one merciless eye peers at you from a cheek of rippled scorched flesh. Aris says, I'll consider what you said, but no promises.
Yes, consider well the prosperous lives and the power that awaits you. I'm certain you'll choose well.
Skyn laughs. He continues down the road, and when the sun suddenly drops below the horizon, it plunges you into momentary darkness. You come to your senses in front of the machine. What do you mean prosperous lives, Skyn? Woedica wants to destroy Animancy. And that includes Watchers too, right? Because Watchers are much more potent than Animancers. Besides, Aris has struck a deal with Hilea. And of course, Aris is hoping for mercy on his soul from Hilea. It doesn't matter that Hilea is created by the Engwith. What matters is the powers that the deities possess. If Hilea can grant Aris' soul mercy, then so be it. With your companions bearing witness, you step up to the place where Thaus once stood before his people long ago. The great machine lies in front of you idle, ready. You have seen this machine and others like it in operation. You understand how it works. It is a device for directing souls. As a watcher, it would be a simple matter to influence that direction. Though, as big as the machine is, it may be the last thing you ever do. Speak the command to activate the machine. There is a shrieking of stone grinding against stone as old cogs loosen and begin to turn. You have only moments before the souls will be sent into the Adra vein. This will be your only chance at redirecting them. Well, let's keep our promise to Hilea in exchange for hopefully mercy on Aris's soul. Return the souls to the bodies they were intended for. You close your eyes and expand your perception outward, taking in the immense totality of the tens of thousands of souls orbiting the chamber. Your grasp on the souls is tenuous. You find yourself fighting to keep them all within your influence, and you can feel them slipping away from you as the machine gains speed. A brief moment comes when it feels as though you hold all of them at once, and their force is so great it feels as though they will tear you apart. In that moment, you dedicate your entire being to bending their orbit, channeling their flow in a new direction. Okay, here we go.
At your command, the ancient device became your instrument, spinning to life with deafening resonance and gathering up the swirling essence like thread on a great spindle. There, in the pale, pulsing glow of the machine that set you on this path long ago, you summoned all your strength, focusing on your objective and blocking out all else. With a single concussive blast that rocked the chamber and sent you tumbling to the ground, you freed the souls from their stasis.
What about the souls?
Exhausted, your consciousness slipping away, your last sight was of the machine, dark and dormant. Then your eyes closed, and sleep welcomed you at long last. After coming to and searching for some time, you discovered the route Theos used to enter Sun and Shadow, and embarked on a long and arduous ascent back to the surface. You emerged in Ter Evron after days of tunneling through the rubble Theos had left behind, and when you stepped into the daylight, you were faced with a different Deerwood than the one you had left. At your direction, the souls diverted by Theos were guided back to the vessels originally meant for them. For the first time, parents of hollow-born children woke to the cries of their infants and looked into their eyes to see them staring back. People fell to their knees where they stood, thanking Helia or Mogren, or even Aethys for their forgiveness of whatever guilt they felt they bore. But for all the relief that had come to some parents, others only found new grief. For many thousands of Hollowborn had died during Wide One's legacy, many by their parents' own hands. For those children, there would be no homecoming. Yet the last Hollow birth was in the past now, and those parents willing to risk trying for a new child were frequently rewarded, often with twins. Many felt they saw Helia's hand in it, and the year would be remembered as the year of Helia's splendor. Lord Radric's zeal had brought him back to life once, but it would not do so again. Radric's destruction at your hands spelled the end of his suffocating rule over Gilded Vale and the surrounding area. In his absence, the village prospered, becoming a popular destination for new settlers anxious to leave Defiance Bay after the riots. Without a nearby ruler, it also grew more wild, with many settlers moving on as soon as they'd arrived, turned off by lawlessness that was excessive even by Deerwooden standards. Nevertheless, despite the challenges of living there, Gilded Vale had survived, and would continue to survive for the foreseeable future. Following the assassinations of Duke Avar Wolfgren and Lady Webb, Defiance Bay was thrown into political upheaval. In the ensuing weeks, the streets had become the domain of looters and blackguards. Few dared to step outside their own doors alone or unarmed. But order was soon re-established by the Knights of the Crucible, who, despite their depleted numbers, had gained favor in the public eye for their role in the unraveling of the conspiracy surrounding Widewind's legacy, and were quickly reinforced by returning forces from Fleetbreaker Castle. For the Knights, their resurgence marked a return to the tradition as well. Having seen firsthand the dangers presented by dabblers in animancy, the Order quickly abolished the practice internally, preferring the familiarity of their hammers and forges to the uncertainties of Essence and Adra. Their identity rediscovered, the Knights suppressed their political aspirations and began once again to train their recruits in the art of blacksmithing, recapturing the post-revolutionary ideals of Deerwood and regaining the respect of its citizens as a result. The destruction of the machine atop Ter Noaneth spelled the end of the reanimated corpses in Heritage Hill. Though at first few were willing to venture into the abandoned district, it was soon cleaned out and rebuilt. The district's horrors still fresh in people's minds, it would be some time before it was fully repopulated. But eventually the lure of cheap prime land would all but erase the memory. The Duke's assassination at the apparent hands of an animancer had caused catastrophic rioting in the streets of Defiance Bay, and few animancers survived the first day. Many Deerwoodans took the end of Widewind's legacy as a sign, both that the gods did not approve of animancy, and that the purging of animancers in Defiance Bay had been enough to satisfy them. In time, their rage would subside, and a number of surviving animancers remained in and around Defiance Bay, often taking to the wilds to practice their science without repercussions. The town of Deerford had seen the last of the cult of Scan. Dark rumors about the town's many curses quickly faded, and travelers soon returned. Abidun's renewal brought new vigor and purpose to a god long known for quiet, steady labor. Handicraft saw a revival in the Deerwood, and no smith wanted for an apprentice. Additionally, Abidun's restored interest in preservation led to redoubled efforts to survey Engwithan ruins. Animancers and craftsmen alike found much to study, but tensions with Air Glanfath rose.
No.
As for Stalwart, the Battle of Caron's Scar only strengthened their resolve to unlock the mysteries of Durgan steel and build new marvels with the White Forge. However, Stalwart's ambitions brought them into further conflict with the Raid Serens, as more and more impoverished communities gathered at the border and vowed to finish the work of the Iron Flail. It would be many generations before the region saw peace. The Flames That Whisper clan found a cautious peace with Stalwart, particularly once the villagers heard of the aid the ogres had offered against the Eyeless. The clan moved back into the Russet Wood, and as Stalwart grew in prestige, the villagers formed a tighter alliance with their ogre neighbors. Within a generation, ogre traders visited Stalwart, and village hunters were welcome in the Russet Wood.
That's good.
Harmka's death had brought the Devil of Carrick little satisfaction. In time, her taste for vengeance soured. What replaced it was a hunger to feel something, anything, new. Summer had thinned the snowpack twice over when she felt the joint at her elbow first begin to stiffen. She turned her back on the hopes of animancy and civilization and walked east.
Where?
She pushed through the mountains, past Raid Ceres, and into the broad plains of Ishamiddle.
Oh.
She had forgotten what it was like to simply journey, no goal or destination in mind.
Aris's homeland.
Though she felt nothing more than the steady thump of her feet on the road, the endless horizons and grassy meadows were new to her. She measured her time in the gradual rusting of her body and was satisfied.
No.
Her movements slowed, but so did the world around her. Waist-high grasses undulated intact in the wind, as gradual as the tides. Sparrows and blackjays made steady pilgrimages across the sky, each flap of their wings a solemn salute. She could hardly move when she found something she had never seen before, the ocean. With the last of her strength, she pulled herself beneath the water, content at last to feel the movement of currents and the constant caress of the waves. Zawa came to understand that the time of the Takan had passed. With his soul no longer fettered to worldly concerns, he grew to become the enlightened Anitle his shaman had foreseen. He took up in an empty monastery near Cold Flow Lake, and word began to spread of his presence there. He taught pilgrims and students how to leave behind their vanity, their fear, and even their past. He invited those who studied with him to share their newfound knowledge, so that all might free themselves from suffering. Once Maneha had made peace with her memory, she decided the time had come to face her more recent past. For the first time in decades, she returned home to Rawatai, and she found that it had changed as much as she had. New districts had sprung up along the coast, while others withered into crumbling husks, and the streets had changed their course as surely as rivers. Her parents wept with joy at her return. They still ran the old spice shop, and in its many aromas and flavors, she found memories of the places she'd traveled and the people she'd known. She told her story, bottle by bottle, and began to build a life on the soil she knew best. The fortress of Cadnua emerged as a bastion of security in the midst of an untamed land,
Yes.
becoming the envy of every thane and earl in Deerwood. Legend grew over time of its impregnability, and stories of formidable invaders easily scattered by the keep's defenses became popular around the hearths of Deerwood inns.
Yes.
Likewise, it also became a beacon to travelers, merchants, and visiting dignitaries alike. Reputed as the finest fortress in all Deerwood, people would journey from near and distant lands alike to experience its fabled hospitality and grandeur.
Yes, Aris.
After the death of the master below, a strange quiet fell over the endless paths of Adnua. The attacks on the fortress above ceased, Adnua's silent titan the closest remaining thing to a master in its musty, forgotten passages. Palagina had gone against the Duke's Bell's orders by inventing a new trade arrangement with the Anamenfath to accommodate the recovering Deerwooden market. With the Deerwood's people still weakened by Weidman's legacy, the Valian republics easily pushed their would-be competitors out of the market. For her outrageous insubordination and audacity, Palagina was banished from the republics. She traveled north in the Eastern Reach, avoiding Valian ports and entering the ranks of the kind wayfarers. Despite her bravery and dedication to those in her care, her strange appearance made her feel like an outsider wherever she went. With your business concluded, Haravius quietly took his leave and headed home to Thane Bog. The elders of the Fisher Crane had not warmed to Haravius in his absence, and when he arrived, he was denounced and scorned. Haravius spoke of his deeds and of his communion with Galawain, yet none would support his petition to return to the tribe.
Oh.
One by one, starting with the oldest, Haravius challenged each member of the council to single combat, humiliating the Riau in a series of savage duels. With half the council bloodied and shamed, the elders at last acknowledged Haravius' strength, announcing him a hunter of the Fisher Crane tribe. Upon being granted this title, Haravius calmly left the village and embarked again on his life of wandering. Adair chose not to return home to Gilded Vale. Through a number of quiet inquiries, he soon found his way into the underground organization of Aethasians known as the Night Market. Ironically, in learning that the gods had been fabricated, Adair found his faith in Aethus renewed, and that his god was neither alive nor truly a god had become irrelevant. He rose quickly through the ranks of the Night Market for his optimism and for his bold leadership, his ultimate goal to make the Deerwood a place that would welcome followers of the Shining God once again.
Night Market.
When the dust settled in sun and shadow, Aloth looked upon the remains of Theos Ixarchanon, his former master. He saw where the Grand Master had gone wrong and what would be required to undo the harm Theos had wrought. With a flick of his wrist, he burned Theos's robe, headdress, and every other symbol of the man's power. Never again, he vowed, should Kith live in fear and blind obedience to an authority they did not understand. Armed with the knowledge and courage he had gained on his journeys with the Watcher, he set out on the long and lonely task of dismantling the Leaden Key. With the Watcher's goals accomplished and his own vows fulfilled, Kanarua sailed back to Tekoa. His friends and family found him much changed, for a pall had fallen upon the man, smothering his former enthusiasm. Called before the Lore College, Kana told them of the pain the Engwithan legacy brought to the lands abroad. He insisted that a search for answers abroad could only fragment the Rawatai people, as it had done to the Deerwood. His findings were met with much respect, and Kanarua's voice came to be considered an influential one in the growing move towards Rawatai's isolation. With Theos defeated and the souls released from Sun and Shadow, healthy children were born once again in the Deerwood. The grieving mother sought a place where she might do penance for the birthing bell. She returned to Deerford, where, to the astonishment of the villagers, she delivered the first healthy child in over a decade. She remained there, and with each new birth, she saw a measure of hope restored to the Deerwood and a measure of grace for her own troubled past. Durrance used Mogren's strength only until Theos had been cast from the world, and then swore off her influence entirely. Regret came to weigh heavily on his mind, and a man who had never previously lacked for words or opinions came to embrace silence and contemplation. He continued to wander, penniless and destitute, searching now not for the reason for his goddess's silence, but for a mechanism for revenge. The charred robes he continued to wear as a reminder that he had been burned by his goddess, and not just by the flames of the Godhammer. In her 4-month journey back to Nossitok, Sagani found that the landscape she traveled had become strangely colorless, the food bland and unsatisfying. She watched the Deerwood, Air Glonfoth, the Valian Republics, and the lands beyond slide by with a dull sense of dread. She returned home to great celebration, yet the words of joy and congratulations rang hollow to her. Old beloved songs sounded toneless. The rituals of changing seasons became drudgery, and Sagani experienced her life back in Masuk as if in someone else's skin. So she fought to feel the worth of her actions, or, at least, to let her village feel them. She led ever longer and more ambitious hunts, mentoring the younger rangers who followed her. On one such expedition, her party was beset by a blizzard, and she pressed on where her companions turned back. She did not return to Masuk.
No.
For you,
No.
the death of Theos brought an end to your waking visions, and a silence to the whispers of the past. In their absence, you were able to sleep. The questions of a distant lifetime ceased to trouble your soul. All that remained was what to make of the answer. But at the moment, there was little to be done, and the matter would have to wait. A long journey loomed ahead, made no easier by your decision to bring an infant to Sun and Shadow.
Oh, the Orlan baby. Wait, Aris? Wait, so he did not remain to be the Lord of Kaithnua? What? But why? Wait, did I misheard? Did I heard the words that Aris continue on his journey? So that means he relinquished his lordship of Kaithnua after building the castle and killing the lord beneath, the master beneath. He let go of all that rulership and power and privilege. But why? Aris, why? So, 3 of the companions have bad end. Sagani never returned to Masuk. Presumably dead, right? Maybe. Why did she decide to do that? Second, Devil of Karok. With each passing day, her body breaks down. Finally, at the last moments, she reached the sea, but I doubt her body will have left enough to continue. The third is Palegina. She was banned from her order, right? But then she joined the kind wayfarer. At least she found a new place and new people to hang with. But Karok and Sagani. Sagani is the worst one. Why did she decide to press on during the blizzard and never return? Okay, I wasn't paying attention to the credits. Is it looping? Is it looping or not? I wasn't paying attention to the credits. Is it looping or not? Okay, so this is the end. This is the end of the credit. Is it? So I'm done here. So how do I... Okay.